Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Watchlist here on the SPM Crew Podcasting Network. And this is my weekly show where guests and I play some movie roulette in my obnoxiously large movie watch list, and you could basically land on anything, and we sure landed on something. For this particular episode, and joining me is Chris Roberts. Thank you so much for coming on.
No, pleasure to be here again.
Yes, Chris is now a frequent guest on the show, but please let everybody know where they can check you out, Chris.
Sure. As your listeners probably know, I'm from Movie Smash, where we
Mhm.
review movies that are based upon comics or graphic novels outside the MCU. So this is always a pleasure to come to because it gets me outside that comic book world.
Mhm. Absolutely. I probably don't have very many comic book movies on my watch list, seeing as I have watched a lot of them. So there you go. But we are going to be talking about the maddest story ever told, and that is Spider Baby from 1967. This film was released December 8th, 1967, runs about 80 minutes. It only had a budget of $65,000, starring Lon Chaney Jr., of all people, popping up in a late in career role, and also on the opposite end, a very early career role for Sid Haig, who would wind up becoming a pretty common co-star in a lot of Rob Zombie's horror films.
Oh yeah.
I am not a big fan of Rob Zombie's horror films. I do like his music a lot, but Sid Haig certainly was one of the ones that was really big standout in a lot of those films. This has become a cult classic horror comedy. Carl Chancer was working as a private investigator when he came up with the story for this film, which is very interesting. They only paid Lon Chaney $2,500 to come in and work on this film, keeping that budget low.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Paying very low amounts of money. Due to bankruptcy, it took 3 years for this film to actually release in theaters after it was done, which is wild. I know that kind of stuff happens with films today and oddly get like shelved and can't find distribution, but I guess that also happened back then as well. This only took 12 days to shoot, which to be frank, I'm not surprised. It's not exactly the most
Yeah, there are a lot of
refined.
scenes that are obviously just they took one take out and they're like, we're done.
It reminded me of the scene in Ed Wood when they're like, but you can see like the concrete under it, like the tombstones fell over. It's like, no, it's good. It's character. Just like run on to the next scene. This actually got turned into a stage musical in 2004, which is wild. And they had a remake of this premiere in 2023 that I had never heard of.
Yep.
So that is very interesting as well. Chris, did I hit on any of the stuff that you had
Well,
found?
a couple of things. So you mentioned that the movie's called obviously Spider Baby.
Yes.
Um, and it's also the maddest story ever told. But when I
Mm.
was looking it up, I actually found it had another title too, Cannibal Orgy.
Yep.
And you mentioned the how low budget it was. It was so low budget. In fact, there's a scene later on. I will get the scenes in a bit, but where he one of the characters are escaping and they fall in a rocking chair and they fall back and a rocking chair breaks. That rocking chair is actually a rocking chair, I believe, of the director of it, like an antique rocking chair his grandmother gave him.
Oh no.
And so, you know, I kind of joke about a lot of these things, but must take in one take. That was one take, probably. I imagine. I have no evidence of that, but I imagine it was.
Like, well, we don't have another rocking chair. You already destroyed my antique.
But this movie also ended up in public domain because I guess that holding company that owned the rights to this all went bankrupt, and you know all
Yeah.
those movies, you know, when the public domain, so there's no copyrights on it. So when I went to YouTube looking for it, found three different versions. They're all the same movie, just three different
Mhm.
postings of the same movie. And I did find a place. I was looking at an interview, and Rob Zombie, you kind of mentioned him. It is actually one of his inspirational movies that he took inspiration from.
I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all. And I know he was obviously a big Monsters fan as well, because he remade the Monsters. And you could definitely tell that, and I'm not surprised that because there's certainly filmmakers who are like, this was one of my favorite actors, one of my heroes in movies, then get them into be into your movies. So I'm assuming that was probably one of the doors that opened for Rob Zombie to find Sid Haig and want to put him in all of his movies for sure.
Oh, by the way, there's another title too. It's called the Liver Eaters. I love movies that have so many multiple titles. It's like let's try
Yep.
that. It's like an A/B test on if a movie's going to work or not. Let's put it under a couple different titles.
Mhm. I am sure Cannibal Orgy would have gotten the most bucks if they put the movie out with that title.
Because it has nothing to do with orgies or, well, I guess they're kind of cannibals, but
Yeah, definitely not orgies. I'm like, I don't remember that part of the movie.
I mean, maybe that was happening off screen in the basement, maybe for all we know.
Maybe that could be on the cutting room floor somewhere. Just like, well, we got to change the name of the movie. We had to cut the orgy
I don't
scene.
think there that much was left on the cutting room floor. I think this is like they started filming that day and they were done in 12 days, and
Yep,
everything is in the movie.
there you go. All 80 minutes of it for sure. But a little synopsis here. We have a caretaker devotes himself to three demented siblings after their father's death. That feels more like the backstory of the movie. And then, they all live in this house, and a group of normies come in and they're gonna try to sell this house. And, these creepy kids don't want to sell the house. And they're gonna make things as uncomfortable as possible for these people coming in. But Chris, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I say this could have been a setup for like a Disney movie. You know,
Yeah.
the normie family wants to come in and take over the house, and the kids aren't going to let that happen. Let the antics begin.
Well, and that's a funny thing because like I thought of so many other because like this definitely has like Adam's Family and Munsters vibe on the surface of this idea with you know it's this weird collection, this family living in this weird mansion, and then a bunch of normies show up and things get weird. Like that's exactly the Munsters. It's the Adams Family,
Oh yeah.
and this is just a little bit more demented than that. And but like it's I we'll get into like specific feelings, but like I could definitely see like there is some definitely connections there. But this is a very basic plot of a lot of things where it's just like these people are coming in. We don't want you coming in here. It's like even like Casper, that
Oh
basic
yeah.
idea of uh, ghosts live in this house, get out of our house kind of thing. So you have all those different kinds of elements. So they're certainly playing around with some familiar territory, and it'd be interesting because I don't remember when the Addams Family and the Munsters first came out. So I don't know if this like came out before them or was like some kind of even weirder, more demented like rehash of that idea.
I do know the Adams Family just because of our show. That it was actually a comic strip first,
Yep.
then became. So I don't know when the comic strip was initially around, but it could have been the 50s or the 60s. I feel like something we need to look up, but
See, this is research I should have done, and it's in my notes. But while I peruse the internet, Chris, what were your general thoughts on the film?
so this movie opens up sort of it's very yellow, right? Like they use some sort of filter on it. Like it feels old timey, but didn't
Hmm.
have to feel that old. Like it did, that was a choice that they made. And when the movie opens up, it's trying to set the stage of how that this is not just a horror movie. It is a dark comedy a little bit, right?
Yep.
Because there's the messenger who's going to deliver this important message to the family that the normies of the family are going to come and basically take over the house
Hmm.
because the father has passed away. We don't know when the father's passed away, but it initially it feels like it probably happened a while ago. However, the fact that the will is happening now, it could not have been that long ago.
Yeah.
What I mean by dark comedy is the messenger comes in. He is, confused by where he's supposed to be going. The first family he sees is like, we will not tell you where that house is because even if we knew, we don't know because we will not steer people that direction. And then as soon as he walks in, he like leans into the window to look into it, and the spider baby, which is really just the eldest of the two daughters, I believe, because she is the
Hmm.
craziest,
Yep.
throws a net on him like a spider, and then holds two knives, like basically fangs, and murders this man. So half his body's hanging out into the public, and half his body is inside. And then they go about their business. Now the caretaker shows up. He doesn't change. He doesn't. You think like maybe they would drag him in? No, he's left hanging there. And I don't
Yep.
even remember when he's actually pulled this. Oh, that's right. I think the caretaker takes his body away or something. But nonetheless, it has this really sort of dark wackiness feel to it because they're having scenes talking with his body hanging out of a window
Yep.
behind them. So it really sets the stage as really a dark comedy. I wasn't sure what I was going to get into because
We never know.
60s horror movies are all over the map.
Yep. Well, and I did look, the Addams Family comic strips started coming out in 1938. So they'd been around for a couple decades, and even the Munsters came out. What's interesting is the Munsters came out the year this movie filmed, and then the Munsters ended when the movie came out. So thinking about that 4 year gap where this was like hanging in limbo or whatever, it's just like
Yeah.
that's an interesting little nugget there for sure. But no, this is definitely that kind of like weird cult classic horror comedy that like you would probably sit in a room with a bunch of your friends and just like have a good time with this. And because it's like it's such a strange odd movie with these really weird characters. Like these three kids are, which first off, yes, the spider baby is quite twisted for sure, and we learn that right from the start. And Ralph, who Sid Haig plays, is just like really awkward and creepy, but like he because he doesn't like interact or engage with people or anything
He
like
does
that.
not speak during the entire movie.
No. And the two sisters though are so creepy. And but it's also like there's moments where these like especially the like the main guy who seems slightly oblivious to all this weird stuff. They're like, "Come on in." I'm like, that look tells me no, I should go the other way. Like, nope, does it anyway.
So I think we should let our listeners know as the sort of the premise behind this, because
Yep.
essentially the movie opens up with a gentleman, which I was watching this, and my first thought was Fact or Fiction with Commander Riker, where
Mm,
him sitting there like, here's this crazy tale. It's true, wink, wink. And he starts reading a book about a disease. I've heard there's
mm,
something syndrome or something that has long since expired because it followed only one family line. And the way the
mhm.
disease worked was whenever the child on their 10th birthday would start regressing, and I don't mean by maturity regressing, but in like their civility, like they became
Yep.
barbaric in that. And really, it was that they go mad, is what it is. And this one family line has this. And so that's where this movie starts, is that we meet this family.
Yep.
And the caretaker of the family is not, of course, related to them at all, but he made a promise to the father he would take care of the family. And he says in a nice little exposition dump at the beginning when we meet the
Yep.
normies that he was it that it's due to incest. And it was funny
Mhm.
how I don't know if you noticed, but there's like a dramatic pause when he says that, as if like one is like a taboo word to say, or like almost like it's the punchline of a joke that where the joke never came, right? Like because it's from incest, and you're like,
It's like one of those moments where you expect dun 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 stare at the
exactly,
camera.
exactly. And what's even funnier about it is to the family that's like the normies, as we keep calling them, are members of the family. They're just
Yes.
distant cousins,
Hmm.
or actually they call them aunts and uncles.
Yep.
So you need to understand that dynamic to really understand this movie and understand the level of creepiness, because you kind of mentioned these two young girls are like, come in, uncle. I forgot what his name was. And he should know right then and there, this is wrong. Something's
Yep.
bad's about to happen. And yeah, there's just so many things wrong with it. Or like the aunt who is sort of like the stodgy aunt who all of a sudden is halfway through the movie running through a field in lingerie
Yeah.
and then going crazy at the end. I didn't even understand that turn, but it was just this baddie thing. And I forgot to even mention the song at the beginning that sort of explaining the movie to us, that this is the craziest tale ever told. And
Mhm.
none of the stuff that they talk about in that song happened in this movie.
This is such a strange experience because so much of it just feels like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Or like this has so like between the maddest story ever told and the song and all of this is building this up to be the most like it's building this up to be an actual Rob Zombie horror movie, but then it turns out to be just this like slightly weirder Adams Family monsters experience, and random scantily clad women running around and just people eating grass at
You
one point
mentioned,
because like the
yeah,
whole
they're eating
dinner
grass.
part.
Oh my God, the dinner scene. But before we get to the dinner scene, so one of my co-hosts on the movie Smash, his name is Jeremy.
Mhm.
He's our big horror guy.
Yeah.
I'm not a horror movie person. I like horror movies, but I'm not like an aficionado of them. So I
Yeah.
asked him, I was like, hey, by the way, I'm gonna go watch this movie. Have you ever heard of this? He's like, oh yeah. Like, oh yeah, of course I know this movie. So you're
It's
right. It is a cult classic. Like the people who like that kind of movie have obviously seen this. Someone obviously recommends it. It's one of those things you just get recommended to go see. But
yep.
yeah, there's a dinner scene where the normies are having dinner and the not so normies are trying to pretend to be normies. Which,
Hmm.
as you know, you probably seen many movies where it's wacky. It's kind of like
Yep.
we're normal, and at this point, the youngest daughter, we kind of think it might be slightly normal. She's the most normal of the
Hmm.
bunch. To at
Yes.
this point, that changes, but at this point, most normie, and we find out some more lore at this point. First off, the entire family is vegetarian
Yep.
because eating meat makes you go mad faster, or was it exasperates the affliction, or what was
Hmm.
whatever the phrase he uses for it. And so, but they want to serve meat because they were trying to be good hosts. And was it he serves them rabbit that the mute caught that
Yes.
day?
Yep. And
And
it's like still rabbit shaped and everything, and they're like mortified looking at this dead rabbit on the table.
yeah, imagine someone like hands you a chicken for dinner, but all the feathers are off, but the head's still on it. Like that's
Hmm.
what you're looking at. And then of course the what was the aunt's name? I forgot what her name was.
Is
She
that Emily?
might be Emily. So she's like like disgusted by this. So they're like,
Yeah.
well, we have some mushrooms because those are picked by one of the two daughters. And then he's about to hand them over, and the guy's like, "Oh, they look fan." The uncle who is like oblivious to everything is going like, "Oh, they look
Yep.
great." He loves the meat, by the way. He's like chomping down on this rabbit. He's like, "The mushrooms look great," and the caretaker's like, "Yeah, she has a real good ability to not pick the poisonous ones." Like, who says that? And then the aunt's like, "Oh, I didn't even want those." She goes, "Well, we have greens, and it's literal grass,
We have greens. It's just like a casserole dish full of just
just
like
grass."
spindled grass. It
What's
just
even funny
chunk.
about that, I like the fact that the uncle goes, I keep calling him uncle, but he has a name, obviously. He's just the goofy guy. He's like, oh, they have no dressing. Like, that's the problem with the greens. There's no salad dressing.
It's I love the fact that the uncle character is so oblivious and his complete just ignorance of this whole situation made so many good funny moments in this movie because he's the fun character. Because
He
like
is.
you have the weird characters, you have the uptight lady and everything, and then you just have like this guy who's just like, wow, this is a lot of fun. We have these wonderful quirky people, and it's just like, no, you're gonna get hurt. This is gonna
Well,
end well for you.
now there's some two other normies, and I don't think we've talked about them at all. There's the
Yep.
attorney whose job it is to make this happen, and then
Yep.
the attorney's
Locker.
assistant, Schlocker,
Yep.
and then his assistant, who becomes the quick love interest of the oblivious uncle.
Yep.
There's a scene where the two of them leave. There's not enough places to stay in the house, so the oblivious uncle and the assistant leave to go out to dinner and then go find a
Mhm.
motel to stay at. I thought the premise was going to be they're going to go out to dinner and then the next morning they're going to come back and this murder has happened. No, that is not what happens at all.
Like, we just couldn't find a place. Can we still stay here? Like, big smile on his face is just like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, it's like you
Like,
left because there's no rooms, but now there's rooms. And I like how he takes
magic.
these things. They say, "Well, the aunt's not available." Okay, because was it
It's
one of the
just,
daughters goes like, "Shh, just be quiet." Oh, because she's sleeping. No, because she's outside running around in the woods, half naked.
it just, the whole, like, the uncle character is just this, like, eye winking character where it's just, like, so obviously written to be silly oblivious because it's fun. It's the fun way of doing it because it feels more engaging to make him just really silly and ignorant than like most horror movies where people just do stupid illogical things and you're just like, what are you doing? And this is like, you're like, oh, what an idiot. And you're just having a fun time because it's fun watching him be completely oblivious and silly. And it's just as this film went on, like this like tarantulas, the creepiness, just like you start to really realize like how uncomfortable these characters are, these kids.
Oh yeah, like there's a scene where after they've come back, the Emily, I think her name is the spider baby, is
Yep.
like, "Hey, let's go play spider," and he's like, "Okay," because these are kids, and
Yep.
she throws in, she's like tying him to a chair. "You're in my net," and you're like, "Dude, why have you not figured this out yet?" Like, it's not like a light net around him; like she has strapped him to the chair,
Yep.
and then obviously she pulls out two daggers, and he's still like, "Okay,
Seems like a normal part of the game. Bring it on.
bring it on." And then he realizes, like, then she starts. Oh no, she also like climbs in his lap. She's like licking his face, and he's like, "Okay, this might be a little awkward." Not like, "Oh, you're my niece." It was just like, let's get somebody else in here. It's like,
Yep. Because like now you're starting to get that you've been in trouble this whole entire movie, and it's probably time that you worry a little bit more. And like it's so interesting because like you have somebody like Lon Chaney Jr. too, who's this caretaker who has like a calming presence. He's like obviously he's seen a lot
yeah.
taking care of these kids and all the crazy shenanigans and um terrible things that these kids have done. And I think that's one of the nice benefits of like I'm sure that's why they wanted to get somebody like Lon Chaney Jr. so
Mhm.
badly. Because like one, also you can like slap Lon Chaney across the poster and be like, oh, I like Lon Chaney. I like the Wolfman. And but like him and this uncle character are interesting pieces to this movie because he's the one that like grounds this all. And like if it was just the kids, I think immediately this is really creepy. He's the one trying to like logic stuff out and like smooth things over, and
Oh
it's just
yeah.
like, and it just to your point where he's just like, oh yeah, she's really good at not picking the poison ones, and it's just like, wait, what? What did you say? And his presence and the uncle's presence are, I think, they were the most fun to me. And then obviously, like you're just taking in the complete insanity that these kids are and all the strange things that they're doing throughout the film.
Yeah, he made the vow to the father. He'll take care of
Mhm.
these kids, and all the normies keep saying, like, we're gonna put them in a home. That's what you do with kids like this. I mean, there are no other kids like this.
Yep. I'm like,
But
where
so
have you seen kids like this?
he's basically, that's why he has this calming presence. I think he's the only his calming presence is the only reason why he has not died yet.
Yes.
So why don't we get? Do you want to talk about a little about sort of like once the whole thing starts unraveling? So the uncle comes home and he's being tied up, and the assistant, I forgot her name, is being taken. She's going to her room. She's to stay in the
Mhm.
the father's room, and in waiting for her is the mute, right? The
Yep.
son, and he's waiting for her in that room to do whatever he wants with her. At this point, and then he ends up kidnapping her and taking her down to the basement via the was it a dumbwaiter?
This house 100% looks like it would have a dumbwaiter. Like
Yeah.
I would have been surprised if this movie did not have a dumbwaiter at some point during it for sure.
And then in the basement, they basically the whole movie ends or concludes with them all coming down to the basement and all
Mhm.
the craziness that's in there. So we have the kidnapped assistant. We have the aunt shows up, having done her running around the front yard for so long, who's now crazy. What was your opinion? Is she crazy? She, at this point, like the look on her face is like she has gone mad.
Yeah, I feel like the what the film's trying to get across to us is that she's been driven mad by this complete insanity. Because like she started up here. Like she's coming in, she's on edge the whole entire time. She's not on Valium like the uncle is, who's just like sleepwalking through this whole entire thing, just taking it all in. And yeah, like she's been pushed to her limits throughout this whole entire film, and now she's like, I'm thirsting for blood.
Yeah,
I'm taking this fight to you. And that's exactly what happens.
she fights them, and then she ends up falling into there's a sub basement, and in the sub
Yeah.
basement, my understanding of it, they don't come out and say this, so your opinion on this is great too. Is like it feels like that's the rest of the family. The other parts of the family we haven't seen before. No, that may or may not they may have said have died or some point. Or like as you get older, the crazier you get. So he
Mhm.
is storing the elder people. I mean, I say elder, I mean above 10, in this sub basement, and he just feeds them, I guess, whoever he finds.
Yeah, and like you just have the creepy imagery of like the tarantulas and stuff like that too in the basement, and it's just such an unnerving. It's like once we're getting into the basement of a creepy house, I feel like we're getting
Somebody's getting
towards the
murdered.
yeah, we're getting to the climax of this thing. Nothing good's gonna happen as we get there, and it's just increasingly more disturbing and creepy and eerie, and like this turns into a complete crazy bloodbath of a movie.
Oh yeah. So what happens? So what do you think happens? Because I think I may have blinked or missed it. In this movie, by the way, if you blink, you might miss something.
Because like it's
What do you
moving.
think? It doesn't stop, right? They don't spend any time on any of the
Yeah.
wackiness or the craziness. The the mute the son, he steals the assistant. What happens to her? And we see her come back at the end of the movie, but there's a period I think I may have missed because all of a sudden we find her laying in a box.
Because Anna's the assistant, right? Or is that trying to keep track of the names for the
Yeah.
characters here? Because
So Emily is the aunt,
yes. Yeah, because
and
Anne
and
is the assistant,
yes,
and her and Peter wind up together in the end. Because
yep.
one does, you know, Aunt goes crazy and goes murderous. It's just like, oh look, hey, you want to get married?
Well, actually, it's kind of funny at the end though. Like the caretaker is like he has decided I'm just going to blow the house up. I
Hmm.
really, by the way, felt at that point the guys writing this thing was like, I need to find an ending. Yeah, he's going to blow it up. So he shows up with dynamite. I don't know where
Yep.
you get dynamite at this hour, but he shows up with dynamite, and he and the uncle picks up Anne, kind of like a prize a little bit. He's like, "Well, I'm out," and picks up Anne and just sort of like
Yep.
leaves. It's like I'm getting my stuff and I'm going.
This definitely seems like the family who casually has dynamite laying around on the grounds that, like, sometimes you just need a bunch of dynamite to blow stuff up.
Well, there's that scene where he's out driving, the caretaker. Like, and
Yeah.
I thought maybe he went to go buy some at a 24-hour hardware store or something. And comes back with it because there seemed a lot of traffic on the road. You always see like screeching tires as he's racing back. So I
Hmm.
don't know where if he went to the local mine. I don't know.
You know, that hardware store keeps a good, steady supply of dynamite for all the local prospectors who are just, getting ready to go to the mines. So,
Exactly.
well, and of course, this campy kind of weird horror comedy has a nice little stinger at the end too.
Oh, before you get that, it just dawned on me where he got the dynamite from. They at the very beginning of the movie, he's driving the attorney to his house, and he has to stop and wait because they're blasting for the highway.
There you go.
So the
So he
writing is so
stole some, I
tight.
guess.
Yeah, the writing is so tight on this movie. They laid that Chekhov's gun at the very beginning for us, and we just didn't catch it. That's us. That's on us.
There you go. And that's the thing, like this film moves. This is not going to let up for 80 minutes. You're going to get entertained. You're going to see weird stuff. You're going to laugh. You're going to be like, what the hell's going on here? And, you always have to have, like I was transitioning to, you always got to have like a nice stinger at the
Yeah.
end of like a weird movie like this. And it's just like Peter and Anne living happily ever after on his book money, talking about this syndrome. And, they have their daughter. And then daughter's like, that zoom in, crazed face looking at a spider. I'm like, well, we have a whole new branch now.
Well, they did write a script for the second movie. I don't know why
And
it didn't come to fruition. It's not like this thing made. It's because this thing failed miserably.
they're like, we need to cut the budget to $40,000 this time for them to be able to do it. But like, you could definitely tell like this movie is probably a bit muted because it came out like this was made in the 60s.
Yeah.
Um, I'm surprised. I'm surprised Rob Zombie hasn't remade this and gone full blown. Like there would totally be cannibalism and orgies in this, and he probably could call it Cannibal Orgy Spider Baby. So,
You know, I was reading something, an article recently. When I was trying to get ready for the rest of this episode. He did use elements from this movie in, was it House of a Thousand Corpses? I think that's one.
oh
He
my.
did everywhere. He lifted something from this movie to use in one of his earlier films.
I've seen House of a Thousand Corpses, and I
Okay.
could definitely feel some, because like it's also like weird family in a creepy house. It's like it's that kind of thing. And you can definitely tell that was a big influence on him, and like this and the Munsters and stuff like that. Munsters are just like, they're not weird and violent or anything. They're
Yeah.
just like, they're just being themselves. Everybody just looks at them and think they're terrifying. No, there's reasons why you should be terrified with
Yeah.
these kids.
There's a reason why they're weird.
Yep, absolutely. I guess, Chris, did you have anything else that you want to add to
No,
discuss?
I'd say for your listeners though, like if you're curious about this movie, I would say you should really go find it. I mean, it is an experience.
Well, yeah, and it's easy to access too, because like you mentioned, there's multiple editions of this on YouTube for you to just to pop on and watch. It's 80 minutes. If you're a big horror fan, I think this it's fun watching some of these old school horror films. I don't A lot of the horror films that I've seen from this era are mostly Hammer horror, and also Vincent Price stuff. Because Vincent Price was like
Yeah.
king of horror in that era of filmmaking. Because it really wasn't until I feel like the late 60s into the 70s where like horror really started booming. You have stuff like Rosemary's Baby at the very end of the 60s from Roman Polanski, but then you have Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you have The Hills Have Eyes and Halloween all throughout the 70s. Slashers became a big thing. You had this onslaught of supernatural horror films because The Exorcist became the highest grossing movie of all time. So
Yep.
you knew that they were going to make a bunch of movies spinning off, like The Omens, like in that vein of ripping off Exorcist, just like Friday the 13th is ripping off Halloween. It's all those kinds of things where things started to spiral. This is a really interesting and weird time for horror, and you can find some interesting little nuggets out there for sure.
Yeah, well, they say horror movies go in a cycle, right? They go
Hmm.
in waves, and I think this was the wave of the creepy family, and
Yes.
eventually get to the slashers, and eventually get to the occult and all this other stuff. But this is the era of creepy families.
Well, and like The Bad Seed
Yeah,
was definitely a big one, or Village of the Damned was like 50s, 60s as well. Creepy little British kids. Just being creepy little British kids. And I think it's very interesting because like this is a great time to be a horror fan now because it's so hard to make movies without $200 million budgets at studios that horror generally is one of the cheapest genres to make work
very
because
true.
you don't need a lot to scare people. So, and sometimes you could scare people with very little and just, the implication of what potentially could happen and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, horror I've always found good horror is always where you take two elements you wouldn't especially put together and make a
mhm,
movie out of it, more like a what if. So the story, the plot doesn't necessarily have to be very robust because you're really
mhm,
saying like, what if these two elements happened at the same time? Like this one was, what if we had a family who is a little creepy that eats people, meets up with the normies in the world? Like what goes down? And then
yep,
that's all you're writing a movie about. And you see that it's like the movie Alien. It's space truck. It's truckers in space.
yep. It's just like, what if you had a group of blue collar workers who aren't getting paid enough, who are just frustrated being there, happen to be in space and they find an alien? Boom,
Exactly.
horror classic. There
Sorry
you
to bring
go.
that for I'm not sure when this is going out, but Alien Earth just dropped this week, and it just
Yes.
reminded me of that.
I didn't have enough time to watch because I have a press screening after our recording. So I'll be watching the first two episodes tomorrow with my wife. So I'm excited about that. And, we're in a golden age of there's so much horror content to be able to explore, but it's also important to check out some of these fun ones as well. It's also one of the reasons I love Shudder. Like, it's literally like if you're a horror fan and you want to explore a bunch of horror, you have a whole streaming service literally dedicated to you, and then you can hop on YouTube and find little films like this too.
Very true.
But Chris, thank you so much as always for coming on and chatting movies with me.
Always a pleasure.
And thank all of you for listening. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this episode. What's your like go-to like cult classic kind of horror film that maybe that's the movie you really enjoy and you go tell people about?
Event
Also,
Horizon.
my God, that movie is, and it could have even been even more demented if they didn't cut like 40 minutes out of the movie.
The hidden director's cut. Sorry to interrupt your closing. The hidden director's cut. I want to see it. I don't have it, but it's one of those things that just disappeared.
I'm like, I don't know what happened to Paul W.S. Anderson. It's like comes out of the gate with Event Horizon and even like the Mortal Kombat movie, which is a lot of fun. And I don't know, but Event Horizon is something for sure. Inspired casting 90s horror movies with Sam Neill going completely insane in The Mouth of Madness and Event Horizon.
There you go.
Um, and then make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. There's so many great shows here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network, a lot of variety as well. So if you have a special interest, there's probably something to pique your interest. And if it's movies, there's tons of that. But if you want to join the crew and, be a guest like Chris and come on to shows like the Wasteland Watchlist or Flicks and Chill, reach out on our website. Or if you have an idea for your own podcast and want to join the crew, let us know. And if you like our logo, check out High Flyer Creative for all your digital marketing needs. But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Watchlist here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.